Good morning, children. How are you all? I hope you all are fit and fine. So, children, yesterday we have started the cell cycle and cell division chapter, and today we are going to continue with this chapter. We should learn more about the cell cycle. So, children, we know the most cells in an organism go through a cell of growth, development, and last the division, which is called the cell cycle. The cell cycle makes it possible for the organism to grow and develop, to replace the cells that are old and damaged, to produce the new cells. So, children, there are mainly two types of phases in the cell cycle which we have discussed. That first is the interphase and the second is the mitotic phase, which is also called the M phase. In the first interphase is the period of a cell's growth and the development. A cell spends most of its life in the interphase, which we have discussed. Like in the human beings, the time period of the cell cycle is 24 hours. Out of 24 hours, 23 hours of interphase and only 1 hour of mitotic phase. So, children, there are these stages of the interphase. These first the rapid growth and the replication and then copying of the organelles. Then after the copying of the DNA, genetic information in a cell and also the preparation for the cell division. There are mainly the two phases. The second is the mitotic and the first is the interphase. The cell reproduces during the mitosis phase and the mitotic phase has the two stages. The first stage which content of the nucleus divide and the second stage when the cytoplasm divide. In the mitotic phase creates two new identical cells and these original cells no longer exist. So children, in the interphase, a new cell begins the interphase with a period of the rapid growth and the cellular activities such as the making the proteins follow the each cell that is actively dividing, eventually the copies of the DNA, its genome, and then prepares for the cell division. So children, the cell's DNA is also called the chromatin during the interphase, and the chromatin is the long thin thread of the DNA in the nucleus. If the scientist add the dyes to a cell in the interphase, the nucleus looks like a plate of spaghettis, and this is because the nucleus contains the strands of the chromatin which is tangled together. You can see the chromatin threads in this diagram. So children, the phases of the interphase, mainly there are three stages of the interphase. In the first phase, which is called the first stage, it is the G1 stage and also called the first gap phase. So this is the period of the rapid growth and the G1 is the longest stage of the cell cycle. During the G1 stage, the cell grows and carries out its normal cell functions, and most of these cells continue the cell cycle. But however, some cells stop the cell cycle at the G1 stage. So mature nerve cells in your brain remains in the G1 and do not divide again. So children, this is the G1 stage. The second stage is called the S stage. S means the synthesis stage. Synthesis, whose synthesis? The synthesis of deoxyribonucleic acid. Yes, the genetic material of the cell. So children, during the S stage, the cell grows and copies its DNA and the strands of the chromatin are copied, so there are now two identical strands of the DNA by the replication of the DNA. And this is very necessary because each new cell gets a copy of the genetic information, and the new strands coiled up and form the chromosome. So this stage is very important. In this stage, the cell's DNA is arranged as a pair, and each pair is called the duplicated chromosome. You can see in this diagram the centromere and the sister chromatids also, so that the two identical chromosomes are called the sister chromatids and make up a duplicated chromosome. So children, the sister chromatids are held together by a structure called the centromere, which is present in between. You can see the centromere, a spherical shape, in this diagram. So children, after that the S phase, the third stage is the G2 stage. This is the another period of the growth and the final preparation for the mitosis. Like we are preparing for exam and then the final revision, we can say the G2 phase, the final revision. The cell uses its energy to copy the DNA during the synthesis stage. And during the G2 phase, and we can say the another name of the G2 phase is the second gap phase, in which the cell stores energy that will be used during the mitotic phase of the cell division. So hope children this topic is clear. Today we have discussed about the stages of the interphase. Totally there are 3 stages of the interphase. First is the G1 phase, we can say the first gap phase. Second is the S phase, means the synthesis phase, synthesis of the deoxyribonucleic acid. And the third is the G2 stage. Okay, in these stages cell prepare for the cell division. This is the preparatory phase, or it is also called the resting phase. So hope children this topic is clear. Any query you can write in query box. So children, today is your homework to make a well labeled diagram of cell cycle in your notebook. Thank you children.